There's a line I've been thinking about a lot lately. Nothing tests leadership like firing people when everyone else is hanging Christmas lights. And that's exactly what today's episode is about. Because right now, as many families are preparing for Christmas and New Year's, 3 in 10 US companies are preparing to lay off employees. This is not theory, this is not a rumor, it's not a whisper in the wind. A brand new survey shows that 30% of companies expect to lay off people during the holidays. And that's on top of the restructuring and the AI driven cuts we've already been seeing at Amazon, Verizon, and many other companies. And if you're an executive listening to this, you may be one of the people responsible for delivering that news, which means that you're carrying two weights: the financial realities of the organization and the emotional and moral responsibility for being the messenger. And today, I want to help you carry that weight with intention, compassion, and strategy. Look, if you're new here, I'm your host, Alex D. Tremble, executive coach, best-selling author of Leadership Sucks Sometimes, and CEO of GPS Leadership Solutions. I've coached executives at Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 50 companies, federal executives, and high growth organizations. And I can tell you this: the most successful conversations and most stressful conversations executives bring to me are not about strategy, they're about people. Layoffs, restructuring, performance decisions, budget cuts, the decisions that hurt. Because great leaders, real leaders, care deeply about the people who depend on them. And that caring is exactly why today's conversation is so important. Here's the truth: sometimes layoffs are unavoidable, but how you do them, when you do them, and what happens afterwards determines whether your team recovers or collapses. Today, I'll walk you through why bad layoffs destroy trust and proactivity, how to preserve dignity while delivering painful news, how to rebuild psychological safety with the people who remain, and create alternatives to layoffs that many leaders overlook. And I'm going to share with you a real story, a coaching conversation I had this week that perfectly captures what great leaders and great leadership during hardship actually looks like. Again, welcome back to the Executive Pill, the podcast where elite leaders learn from me and other amazing leaders across the world how to lead smarter, influence better, and succeed faster. Let's get into it. So, first, understanding the silent tax of bad layoffs. When layoffs are handled poorly, the disruption doesn't happen immediately. It shows up later, subtly, quietly, expensively. Your best people start to look elsewhere. Institutional knowledge walks out the door, proactivity collapses, psychological safety evaporates, teams stop taking risks, and the people who remain become terrified of what's next. I call it the silent tax. It's the cost that leaders pay for treating layoffs as purely financial transactions rather than trust based human decisions. Executive leaders must remember it's not the layoffs that kill culture, it's the way the layoffs are handled. So I want you to think about, don't just decide how many to cut, decide where to cut. Here's where strategic leadership comes in. Most leaders start with, how many people do I need to cut? But the smartest leaders start with, what do we need this organization to become? Is the company shifting towards AI, automation, a different product line, new strategy, a leaner operating model? See, cutting line item head counts without strategic alignment is not restructuring, it's panic. Smart executives look at What are the skills needed in the next 24 months? What roles no longer align with the operating model? Are there opportunities to redeploy or retain? Um, where is execution capacity actually living right now? This isn't about numbers. It's about positioning. So next thing to think about is how do you communicate in a way that preserves dignity? So let me say something very clearly. How you tell someone they no longer have a job will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And this is why intentional communication matters so much. Here are 3 rules for executives. Rule 1, don't gaslight people. Don't say things like, nothing's going to change, your job is safe, we're stronger than ever. Be truthful and compassionate. Look, you can say something like, we made decisions we hope we'd never have to make. But again, don't gaslight people. Rule 2, don't do layoffs right before major holidays if you can avoid it. The reality is that no day is a good day, but there are absolutely bad days. Don't do it the day before Thanksgiving. Don't do it the week of Christmas. Don't do it on someone's birthday. Don't do it during their PTO. Leaders can't avoid pain, but we can avoid being cruel. So, rule number 3, give people resources, support, and options. This is where dignity is either protected or destroyed. Help them transition, offer support, make introductions, extend the insurance out a few months. Even small actions communicate you matter. And I want you to remember that throughout this process, remember, you have to rebuild trust with the survivors. And that next 90 days are going to be absolutely critical. See, the people who remain after layoffs, the survivors, often carry more fear than the people who left, which means that leaders must be intentional about rebuilding stability, how they re anchor the team's purpose, clarify priorities, reset expectations, reinforce psychological safety, how they provide realistic workload boundaries. Because if you don't rebuild trust, you'll end up with burnout, disengagement, and a mass exodus of your top talent. And I encourage you to consider alternatives before cutting people. Yes, sometimes layoffs are necessary, but many leaders, I would say too many leaders, jump straight to layoffs without exploring alternatives like hiring freezes, role redesign, reassignments, redeployment, temporary pay reductions, voluntary whenever possible. You could reduce contractor spend. There's performance-based pruning instead of broad cuts. Look, the reality is a 10-minute creative conversation can save 10 years of trust. Now, I promised you in the beginning that I would share with you a real life story. So I want to go back to a coaching session I had recently. Um, one of my clients was devastated because he had to lay off a number of employees. And he told me, Alex, I don't want them to feel used or thrown away. It's not their fault, and it's not right. And I told him something that I want to tell you. Great leaders understand that sometimes you have to make decisions that hurt people. Yes. But great leaders also understand that they can choose how the decisions happen. So we talked through everything: how to communicate the news, how to show appreciation, how to support the people that were leaving, how to protect the people who were staying, how to time the announcement thoughtfully in the holiday season, how to keep trust intact even when the outcomes hurt. By the end of our conversation, he wasn't happy, but he was clear. And clarity is the first step towards compassionate leadership. There's a quote I like, and I hit up on a bit in my book, Leadership Sucks Sometimes. Leadership isn't hard because of what you have to do. It's hard because of who it impacts. And that's what makes leadership real. So we always end every episode with a start, stop, continue. So what I'm asking you to do is I want you to start approaching layoffs with dignity, clarity, and compassion. I'm encouraging you to stop thinking of layoffs that they're purely financial decisions. They are human decisions with long-term cultural consequences. And I encourage you to continue rebuilding trust, alignment, and psychological safety with those who remain. If this episode helped you, share it with a leader who might be navigating a difficult season right now. I promise you that if you found value from this, your peer, your colleague, your supervisor, your friend who's also going through this or maybe getting ready to go through this will take value from it as well. So I encourage you always, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal with Alex Tremble. I invite you to follow The Executive Appeal wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me, your host, Alex Tremble, across all socials or via email for exclusive webinars, courses, and speaking engagements on continued topics of executive leadership. So until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving.